Hello, we're going to take a look at listening to an oral presentation. So when you're listening to the oral presentation, it's important in this part that you take notes. So this is about 4.5 minutes long. This is an actual test or an actual question from the test. So it's important to take notes as you're listening to this. So sometimes you can actually see the questions. So when you're taking the test, if you can, go through the questions and look at them. I'm going to repeat this in Spanish and then we'll move on. So, cuando estás tomando esta parte del examen, es una presentación oral, tienes que tomar notas porque está muy largo el examen. Y si estás muy nueva en inglés, claro que no vas a entender todo, pero que puedes tratar de escribir algunas palabras que sí entiendas. Cuando empieza el examen, antes que pones a escuchar el presentación oral, tienes la opción mirar las preguntas, mirar las preguntas y las respuestas, porque esto te va a ayudar cuando estás escuchando la presentación. Que lo voy a decir en inglés. So the last thing I have to say about this is when you are listening, take notes about what you do here and try to listen to before you start. I said this before you start, read the question and the answers, because that gives you a point of where to take notes at. So I'm going to start the recording and go ahead and take notes as you listen.
Listen to a teacher talking to her students about the age of exploration.
All right, so let's think back to the 14th century. That's when the age of exploration began. Prior to this time, sailors occasionally told fascinating stories of faraway lands when they returned home from their voyages. But this didn't really help the people back home understand how far apart places really were. You know, like Asia and Europe, for example. However, during the age of exploration, new technologies were being used that made sea travel easier and more common. The two tools I want to look at today are the astrolabe and the compass. I'm guessing most of you are not familiar with the astrolabe. Well, the astrolabe is an instrument that helped ships navigate, find their way better. Sailors used it to measure the position of the sun at noon. With this measurement, they then used a formula to calculate their latitude. Lines of latitude help us know how far north or south we are of the equator, which goes right around the middle of Earth. So by knowing their latitude, sailors had a better idea of where they were actually located in the seemingly endless ocean. It's important to note that the astrolabe wasn't very accurate because it was hard to keep steady on a ship that was rocking back and forth in the waves. I mean, do you think you could hold something still on a moving ship? Lucky for the sailors struggling to use the astrolabe on a rocking ship, the astrolabe was not the only tool that explorers were able to use. At the same time that the explorers were experimenting with the astrolabe, they were also starting to use a tool called a compass to make their traveling directions more reliable. Before the compass was developed, sailors could only use visual cues or landmarks, such as a large mountain, the coastline, or the stars, to indicate direction. But with compasses, they started using the directions we're familiar with today: north, south, east, west. They no longer had to rely just on their sight. Since Earth acts like a very big magnet, it can interact with other magnets. So early explorers discovered that they could use the attraction between Earth's magnetic field and a magnet in their compass to always know which way was north. And once you know which way is north, you can figure out which way you're traveling at any time.
What is the talk mainly about? A. New sea routes found by sailors. B. The discovery of an important landmass. C. Technology used in sea travel.
So when we're looking at this, remember, let's use the process of elimination. So I'm going to go up here and do a strike through. So did it really talk about sea routes found by sailors? Not really. Did it talk about discovery of important land masses? No. They talked about different islands and stuff. Did they talk about technology used in sea travel? Yes. So through process of elimination, I was able to find my answer. Okay, so let's take a look at question number 8.
How does the teacher present the information in the talk? A. By giving an introduction followed by examples. B. By providing a summary followed by an opinion. C. By telling a personal story followed by an explanation.
So they want to know how the teacher presented the information in a talk. If we come down here and look, we can kind of see that. So they talked about faraway places and gave an example of Asia. Then she talked about new tools and gave an example of the astrolab and kind of explained it a little bit. Then she talked about the compass and then explained that as well. So knowing that information, we can kind of come through here and we can look at it. Does she give it an introduction followed by examples? Well, we kind of saw that, so we're not going to mark that off. Does she provide a summary followed by an opinion? In my notes, I didn't write anywhere where she gave her own opinion, so we're going to mark that off. And then she tell a personal story followed by an explanation. She was talking about the past, so it's kind of hard for her to give us a personal summary because it's like the 1400s, a long time ago. So again, using that process of elimination, we have the answers. Okay, let's look at question number 9 and 10. I want you to do those two on your own.
Why does the teacher discuss lines of latitude? A. To teach students about magnets. B. To help students understand how the astrolab was used. C. To explain a problem sailors had when using compasses. What point does the teacher make when she mentions a ship rocking in the waves? A. Sailors were not able to move through some parts of the ocean. B. Rough waters could affect the Earth's magnetic field. C. Astrolabs did not provide perfect measurements.
All right, so make sure you look at your notes, or you can even look at my notes and see which one of these answers help you. Remember, do the process of elimination and make sure to read them well, because the first half might make sense and might match something, but the second half might change that a little bit. So take your time and complete those two on your own.